Welcome, everybody. I'm Irene Pasternack, teaching Feldenkrais for Northwest Parkinson's Foundation. Or actually, teaching Feldenkrais for you guys to see if I can help you move a little easier and more comfortably. Um, Today, at the end of last time, we talked about what some needs were, and the three things people mentioned were rolling over in bed, tight shoulder, and upper ribs getting mobility in the top. So that's what I have as a lesson for today. So let's start with a measurement move. And just as you're sitting there, come and sit toward the front of your chair. Find your sit bones. Wiggle around on your bottom a little bit just to wake up the sit bones. Make sure your feet are wide. We played last time on Tuesday a little bit with the keeping the weight under the fourth. All right, and now close your eyes and imagine that between your left shoulder and your left ear, there is a piece of silk thread. You could make it a beautiful color if you'd like. And it attaches to your earlobe and to the tip of your left shoulder. Let's get a sense, if you put a ruler on it, how long is that thread? Let's get a felt sense for the length of it. And then take another thread and attach it to your right earlobe and to your right shoulder and feel the length of that thread. And use your imaginary ruler to measure its length. See which one feels shorter or longer right now. And perhaps there's a different angle to them. One shoulder might be a little in front of the other. So one ear might be a little in front of the other. Just get a sense if you have that feeling that one ear or one shoulder is more forward than the other side. And then exhale. And when you have to breathe in and notice what your breathing feels like today. Where is the air going first? We've played with the air going into all the different parts of the lungs and into filling your body in every direction. But now, as you're just thinking about it fresh for today, where's the air going in your inhales? And wiggle your hands a little, just to feel if one hand feels stiffer than the other. And just feel where you feel tension when you could imagine moving your arms to, I don't know, just wave them around a little, or like you were conducting some music. What does it feel like to make those little motions? Or some of you who are in boxing, what would it feel like to punch forward? Okay. So now, if you're sitting very close to your computer, you might want to back up a little bit because we're going to do some work with our arms right out in front of us. And so I don't want you bumping into the computer. But still, as you settle in the new position, settle toward the front of your chair. And as we work with the arms and the body today, I know that many of you have some really significant challenges in your neck and shoulders. Really important for you to stay in your realm of comfort as we're working. And if something pinches or bothers you, please stop and move smaller. This whole lesson can be done with very tiny little movements that can stay under your range of discomfort. So feel free to raise your hand if you're not figuring out a way to do it comfortably. Okay, how about everybody give me a thumbs up that they just heard that? It sounds so easy, but it's just not the easiest thing for people to do. All right, so we're going to start by putting the hands straight out in front of us with the palms lightly touching each other. And you don't have to lift high. You can aim a little lower if that's more comfortable. And begin, there's going to be one constraint, which is your elbows stay pretty straight. To begin to slide your right hand a little bit forward and then just back to matching your left palm. So you slide your right hand forward as if you wanted to reach the computer and then slide it back. And I'm just watching how people are doing that. Okay, rest for a moment.
I can't see your arms.
Say it again, Bill.
I can't see your arms or hands.
Okay, hopefully, I'll try and keep some of this in visibility, but then my head goes away. So you can do it without seeing, because really this isn't about mirroring or doing what I'm doing, but about the sensations in your own body. So when you're sliding that arm away from yourself, I see people doing it in one of two ways. One way is you use your collarbone, your shoulder blade, and just the arm and the shoulder structure come forward. So everybody try that. And we're gonna take the left arm away. Put your left hand on your collarbone, on your right collarbone. And if you reach forward without turning or twisting your body, still looking straight ahead, you can feel how your collarbone kind of aims forward. You can feel that bone moving. Okay. Now, the other way to slide your hand forward is to bring your whole shoulder forward and to turn your spine. So try looking to the left as you slide your hand forward. So leave the hands pointed straight at the screen, but turn to look to your left. Okay, put your arms down for a minute. And we've done some turning lessons, and remember, turning always starts with the sit bones. So leave your arms down and slide your right sit bone a little forward. And as you slide your right sit bone a little forward in your chair, feel how that begins to turn your spine and turn your shoulder. And then once, hold your sit bones really still, kind of like you're clamping your bottom down onto your chair to hold on, and turn your shoulder. You turn both shoulders, one goes back, one goes forward, and you feel they don't go quite as far. And then relax the sit bones, and even think about pulling the left one back in the chair a little bit, and feel how that lets your shoulders turn further. And I see some of you getting a little stuck with this. Some people find it easier to think of the right shoulder going forward. So everybody try that. And look to the left as you do it. Take your right shoulder forward. And some people find it easier to think about the left shoulder going backward. So take the left shoulder backward. Which feels more powerful to you? And this is the trick for rolling over in bed, which is that for many of us, the shoulder going backward has more power to it than the shoulder going forward. And so when you're in bed, starting a movement with the side that's touching the bed to push it will then just automatically bring the other shoulder into position for beginning to roll. Okay. So hands out in front again. And now turn and look to the left, letting your sit bones move and your whole spine turning a little bit to the left. And see how your arm could be paralyzed. It could just be sitting there, but it gets pushed forward when your shoulder moves forward. Now put your fingers right on your collarbone again, your left fingers on your right collarbone. Put the right hand out in front of you. And your fingers are going to go for a ride while you turn your sit bones and turn your spine and look to the left. You can feel it's a very different motion in the collarbone than if you keep your shoulders square. So keep your shoulders square and go forward and back with the arm, and feel how that one of them makes your collarbone point forward, and one of them, it almost feels like the collarbone, like this joint here, opens. So one closes the joint and one opens it a little. Okay, and just rest for a moment. And put your arms back up there. And now begin sliding your right hand back a little bit. So you leave your left hand still and you're taking your right hand back. And there are multiple ways to do that. You can do it by leaving your eyes looking straight ahead and just using the collarbone and the shoulder blade to pull the shoulder back. Or you could look to the right and slide your right sit bone back and your left one forward. Or think of bringing your left knee a little forward. Okay. Rest your arms for a moment. And now let's try the turning one again, where you turn, you're bringing your hand back, looking to the right a few times. And then try leaving your head looking forward and taking the shoulders and moving them to pull your hand backwards. So pulling your right shoulder backwards, but your head stays still in the middle. And then rest. And close your eyes again for a moment. And put those two silk threads, one between your left ear and your left shoulder, and one between your right ear and your right shoulder. And see if the length of the right thread has changed. And perhaps even the sense of which ear is in front, which shoulder is in front might have changed. Okay. Now, rest your left hand on your right thigh and with your arm long. And then you're going to do the same motion with your right hand of sliding it forward past your hand and back, but do it while your left hand is resting on by your knee on the right side. So it's that same forward and back sliding, but now the ribs in the front of you are a little rounded. You can look down and watch this slide and see, are you doing it just with the shoulder? Or with the sort of twisting your spine to do it. If you're twisting your spine, you'll find your head and your eyes kind of look around the room. When you go down, your eyes will look left. When you slide up, your eyes will look right. So try that so that it's as if your arms were paralyzed and your shoulders twist, and that moves. Good. And then put the arms up so that the palms are over your right knee, but the angle of the arms is your hands are about the level of your forehead, if that's comfortable. And a few times do that same sliding while you're looking up. Kind of, you can see if you did a good job painting your ceiling, the junction between the walls and the ceiling. So your eyes are looking up at that level. I'm always amazed when I look at that line, how bad a job I've done in the painting. Good, and bring your arms down. And now just close your eyes again. Measure that line. And exhale, wait a moment, and then breathe in and feel how the air goes into you. Is your sense of how you're sitting on your sit bones different than before? Different right and left? Which foot feels more stable? And wiggle your eyes around in their sockets. You might find your right eye moves a little easier than the left. And come up to standing. And as you stand, notice which arm feels longer. There might be a very clear difference in the sense of length of the arms. And walk around a little and just feel the difference in the two shoulders, how the arms swing. And is it easier to turn and look at things on the right side of you or to look at things on the left? Like, do you feel, oh wow, it's really easy to turn one way more than the other? Okay. So now this next part might need a little preparation in your space. I'd like you to find a wall that you can stand next to. And it's best if there's a little bit of space, you're going to stand with your side to the wall, and if there's a couple feet in front of you and behind you. So sometimes this requires taking a picture off the wall. And sometimes you could, if there's not quite enough space, you could find a door to lean on. And I'm not going to be able to see as many of you, but I can see some, and that's good. So stand with your right arm toward the wall. And begin moving your shoulder, your right shoulder, forward and backward, as if you had paint on your shoulder and you wanted to paint a line on your wall. And there are two ways to do this, just like there were two ways before. You could do it just with the collarbone and the shoulder blade, and that moves the arm and the shoulder. Or you could rotate your body so that you turn toward the wall and you turn away from the wall. Mm-hmm. And see how that lets you make a bigger stripe and if your hips were on the wall right now, your hips would also be drawing a stripe on the wall. Okay, good. Rest for a moment. Now your shoulder could also be the paintbrush that paints a line up the wall and down the wall. So try taking your shoulder on the wall and going up and down, or it's like your shoulder itched and you were scratching it by rubbing it on the wall. This is great. I'm seeing so many different ways people are organizing their bodies to do it. Some of you are doing it just with the collarbone and shoulder blade. Some of you are doing it with your ribs. And if you look up toward the ceiling a little bit, see if that helps you use your ribs to draw a line up. And then look toward the wall and look down a little bit and see if that helps your ribs so that it becomes the ribs in the side of you that move, that allow you to draw this. Okay, good. And pause for a moment. The third technique that I'm seeing in the room is that some of you are bending your knees, and so it's like you're taking your whole body lower and then standing up straight, and that draws the line on the wall. So go ahead and try that a little bit. It's like a little mini squat, but with your shoulder on the wall, it draws a line up and down. Okay, and then the fourth way I'm seeing people do it is just with their left leg, that with their left foot, they're coming up onto the toes of their left foot, which lifts the side of their pelvis, which pushes their shoulder up the wall. So you roll up your left foot so that you're on the ball of your foot, and see if that pushes your shoulder up the wall a little bit. So I see a few of you are facing the wall. You want just your right shoulder on the wall. Okay, good. And step away from the wall for a moment. And just feel what that shoulder feels like. I'm beginning to be able to see differences in you as you're standing of a shoulder relaxing, going down away from your ears a little bit. And I can see the arm length differences. Okay. Now go back to the wall, same side against the wall. And put your right arm straight out in front of you on the wall. So your shoulder and your upper arm and your forearm are on the wall. The right one, just the right one. Left one can hang by your side. There you go. And now if you wanted to slide that arm forward on the wall, how could it slide forward? So there's a little bit of length if you just move the collarbone and the shoulder blade. But if you rotate to look toward the, away from the wall, see how that allows your hand to slide a little bit further forward. So you twist your body and you bring your right shoulder forward and your left shoulder backward. And the more your head turns to look away from the wall, the further forward your arm can go. And then when you look back toward the wall, your arm will pull back a little bit. Okay. Rest your arm for a moment. And turn your belly to, so you're going to keep your feet in the same position they are with your right arm, right side against the wall. But twist yourself now to the right so that your chest is facing the wall. And now your right arm is behind you. And begin exploring the wall behind you and see where your right arm can reach on the wall behind you. So some of you have your right arm going to the left. Now take your right arm to the right and explore the wall on the right side of your body. And you can feel how you have to turn toward the wall quite a bit in order to touch places on the wall there. And if you turn all the way to face the wall, your right hand can reach quite a big area to the right of yourself. But if you don't turn to face the wall, it probably pinches in your shoulder. So here's one of those moments of if there's pinching in your shoulder, it's time to do something a little different, which is to turn your body more to the right. Good. Okay, rest your arm. Now, keep your right side to the wall again, so your feet are parallel to the wall. And with your right arm, begin painting the wall in front of you. So you could imagine that the whole side of your arm is covered in paint. Just explore where you can easily reach on the wall to paint with your arm. So the right arm should, you should be sideways to the wall. And your right arm, there's usually a comfortable area in the middle. And then if you start to go up a little higher, you might stop there and experiment with how could you use your left leg to help you lift the right arm up a little higher on the wall. Like if there was a spider web up there you wanted to reach, And it might be if you look at your hand as you lift it up, it becomes easier to lift it up higher. And you might find that there's a place as you lift your arm a little higher against the wall that it wants to roll over and go your palm to the wall. Okay, bring your arm down and rest for a moment. For most of us, as our arm gets up toward the top, there can be a spot where it kind of feels like it pinches a little. And I want to explain a way to get through that spot and then have you try it, which is as you bring your arm up, you glue your ear to your arm, and then you turn your face and your shoulders to face the wall, and that brings your arm through that difficult spot until you get to that place where your arm is now behind you. But if you haven't found a way through the difficult spot, don't force it. But the more your belly turns toward the wall, that allows the arm to get to the space behind you. Good. Rest for a moment. If you're sitting because this is either uncomfortable on your shoulder or you're tired of standing, you can do this in your imagination. You never need to lift the arm, but you could turn your body, look up as if you were looking at your hand, and you'll be taking your shoulder in a circle like we did before without taking the arm. So if this is too much for the arm, just do the shoulder. Okay. Now, standing like you are with your right side to the wall, rotate your body so your arm goes behind you. And begin with it behind you, now sliding it up the wall. And it will get to that place where it could perhaps come up by your ear. And then once it's up by your ear, you turn your head and rotate your body, it will come to in front of yourself. And for some, this is not yet doable. So if you get to an uncomfortable part, just reverse it and come back down. So for all of this, your feet stay in the same position, and it's your torso that's twisting. So some of you have figured out where we're going, which is being able to take the arm in a complete circle on the wall. And you'll find you can make it a little easier on yourself if you step a little away from the wall. You don't have to use as much of your back. But if you find a comfortable path, try stepping a little closer to the wall. And if you find a path in one direction of the circle, Marilyn, I'm just looking at you, my eye just caught on you. While you're doing it and sitting like that, use your eyes to look at your hand so that wherever your hand goes, your eyes and your chest also go there. See how that makes it a little easier? Yeah. There's something about when our eye and our hand move together, the whole body comes along in the movement. All right, come and sit down for a moment. Rest, everybody. And bring those threads to your ear and your shoulder again. Explore your breathing. So exhale and wait and then breathe in. And see if on the right side of yourself you can feel this connection when you breathe, from your foot all the way up to the top of your head. That something on your right side just feels sturdy and more present in your mind than your left side. Move your eyes around a little. Is it easier to turn right and see what's on the right side of the room? or turn left. And if you just turn your head, not the rest of yourself, is it easier to turn your head right or turn your head left? And stand up, just right in place. And feel any difference in the length of your two arms. Do you suddenly feel like one goes way down further on your thigh than the other one? And play with your hands a little. You could try conducting some music or making a figure 8 with your hand and your arm. And just see what it feels like to have taken some of the tension out of one side of the body. Okay. And then come back to your wall. Before we go to the wall, sorry, how's everybody doing at staying within their range of comfort? Have a thumbs up that you're doing okay there. And if you're not, slow it down. There's no need, we're not after, like, you won't be a better person if you can take your arm in a circle around the wall. The goal is the sensation and the identifying that there are multiple ways to move around, to move your arm. Yeah, and looking for the pleasure. Our goal is to make this circling the arm feel delicious. Okay. And I see some of you not on the wall now and playing. I don't know if there's any of you who played baseball and throw a ball. If you're in standing and put one foot in front of the other, and you could imagine having a ball in your right hand, and you turn your body to take that ball behind you, and then you turn your body to release the ball. Do it in slow motion. And you'll feel how it's your hips that are what powers the ball. So your hips turn one way, and then your hips turn the other way to throw. Beautiful. This is all about that general principle that we use the big muscles to do the big work and the little muscles to do the little work. So when it comes to rolling over in bed is a lot like this throwing a ball, that it's that twist in the hips that's where the power is. And you could even, if you're standing up, and for those of you who this throwing a ball is comfortable, try and do it even more with the power of your hips so that it can be a little snap. But the snap isn't in the shoulder, the snap is in the hips. Because that is where your power is. Beautiful. All right, come on back to your wall. I'm assuming you'd like me to even you out a little bit before the end of the day, or the end of the class. Because there's, and just as you're walking to your wall, notice the differences on your right side and your left. Which side feels sturdier? Okay. So come back to the wall and put your left side against the wall. And this is a whole new side of you. I know with Parkinson, well, for everybody, and especially with Parkinson's, the left and the right side can seem like they belong to two different bodies sometime. So go slow on this left side and allow yourself to explore. And put your arms straight in front of you on the wall. And a few times, slide it along the wall and see what's your default. Do you use your collarbone and your shoulder blade? Or do you rotate your body as your default? And play with both of them so that you can do both. Extending your shoulder blade, your collarbone coming forward, bringing it back by pulling your shoulder blade toward your spine. And then a few times lengthen it by turning your back toward the wall. So you could engage your hip or your shoulder on the wall to pull. Good. Okay, and rest for a moment. And then put the left side on the wall again. And begin to paint the area in front of you. Just leisurely, you've got whatever beautiful color you've always fantasized about, I don't know, a neon green wall or whatever color. It's just in your imagination, so it won't be there afterwards, but you're painting. And explore, just if you don't turn to look at the wall, how high can your hand go? And then if you turn to look at your hand and turn your torso toward the wall, feel how it can go a little higher. There's something about the looking up at the hand, that tilt of your neck. So there's nothing to see by watching me. Watch your hand. That's the interesting thing right now. Okay, good. And rest for a moment. And a few times, cozy right on up to the wall so your left shoulder and your left hip are pressed against it a little bit. And roll your hips so that your hips are drawing a line parallel to the floor. By rolling your body to face the wall and away from the wall, the hip that's touching the wall is drawing a line. Yes, good. And try and draw that line in front of you, and your eyes will go away from the wall. And then try and draw that line so it goes a little bit behind you, and your belly begins to go toward the wall. And try doing it with your shoulder. So your shoulder paints that line forward and backward on the wall. And to go further backward, you have to turn your hips too, so your face goes toward the wall. Okay? So now, starting with your left side on the wall and your feet pointed to the right, leaving your feet there, turn your belly to the wall and begin exploring and painting the wall with your left hand behind you. So the more you turn your face and your eyes and your chest and your belly to the wall, then you'll be able to find freedom in that hand on the wall behind you. So the left hand goes on the wall behind you. Yeah. And the more you're twisted, the higher it goes. Again, if this shoulder's giving you trouble, don't go up higher than you are comfortable, but experiment with the twisting, because the twisting may be just the thing that you need for your shoulder to go, oh, there is a path. Okay, and rest for a moment. It's the difference of sometimes things hurt because we don't know how to do a movement, and sometimes things hurt because there's something going on in the structure and it hurts no matter what you do. And trying to tease out the difference between those. And if you're sitting and taking a rest, just do these movements with your shoulder. Looks like a lot of people are taking a rest. Everybody sit down for a moment. It's always my signal that it's time to rest. And just as you're sitting here, come up to the front of your chair, close your eyes, and imagine that your left shoulder is on the left wall. And imagine turning your torso to the left so that your arm can go behind you. And imagine turning your torso so far to the left that your arm can begin to paint the wall. And you can feel, even in your imagination, if you don't imagine going far enough, your arm is not going to want to go up that wall. So don't push it up the wall, because that's what's going to hurt yourself. But just go as far as you can imagine, taking the shoulder back, feeling how your belly has to twist. Good. And come back in your imagination. And imagine your arm going forward on the wall where your head and your eyes look right, and your chest turns to the right and your belly turns to the right. Your hand can begin to go forward and up the wall. And then if you begin to bring your head back in your imagination and look at the hand, you might be able to imagine going over the top of the circle. And feel how the weight has to shift on your sit bones a little bit in order to look up to the left, in order to imagine looking up to the left. Your breath has to do something to imagine looking up there. Okay, let's give our imagination a rest for a moment. And then come back up to the wall. So stand up again and go back to your wall. And begin seeing if you can find a path. You could start from behind you and go up the back to come around a full circle, or start in front of you. Again, though, if your body's not ready for a full circle, just play, and wherever is challenging for you, seeing if there's anything you can do with your chest. So Marilyn, I'm going to pick on you again, and you know what I'm going to say, you just did it. Great. The more your eyes look at your hand, the more you turn your chest toward where your hand is going, the freer the movement is in the arm. The more you turn your hips to either face the wall or go away from the wall, the more comfort there is in the arm. The more, if you're sitting, that you feel your sit bones being pulled in the chair, the more comfort you're going to have with your arm. And if you've got the circle to work in one direction, try going in the other one. But this is great. I see you doing the beginning of another lesson that we teach, that we call the windmill, where both the arms are going around the circle at the same time. We're not going to get all the way into that one today, but it's a fun one, because there's a relationship between what one arm can do and what the other arm can do. Okay, good. And come back into, now stand more in the middle of your room. And try with your left arm throwing the ball, where it's your hips that turn your arm so it can go behind you. You look at the ball, and then your hips turn in order to throw it. Yeah. Beautiful. And then if that path feels comfortable for your body as you're doing it, I see some of you throwing the ball. You could do it to throw the ball underhand by taking the arm back and around and then tossing it under. But if the path is feeling good, especially for this overhand one, try doing it with a little bit of a snap of the hips. And that's where the power comes for your arm. Yeah. Beautiful. All right, and then walk around a little bit. Feel if your left arm has now gotten longer. Feel how your stability is on the left side. And if you turn and look a little to the left, is there a little more world available on the left side? If it works for you today, and you could go outside for a little walk after this class, walk around and see if you're noticing some things in your neighborhood that you don't usually see. If your eyes are just a little more ready to turn from one side to the other. And then come back and have a seat. And close your eyes for a moment. Check in with yourself. Are you sitting up on your sit bones, your knees wide, your feet resting flat with the weight more out toward the outside or under the fourth rather than rolling in? And take a breath in. And see if there's a little bit more space and softness, responsiveness of your bones to the breath on the left side now. So I particularly love this lesson, which I call arm circles or wall circles, because it's an easy one to remember. Like, it doesn't have a lot of complex pieces to it, but the eyes looking at the hand and the body turning. So this is something, if you're finding your shoulders stiff, you're finding one side of you sore. I did a lot of clipping in my yard over the weekend and kind of made all these muscles a little tight. This lesson is an eraser for that kind of tightness. And it really helps improve your balance on the two sides because it gets your ribs and your torso more connected to your feet. So I'm going to open the conversation. If you have questions, comments about today's lesson, just either unmute yourself or raise your hand and I'll unmute you. Anybody surprised at something that happened in the lesson? Okay, Elizabeth, yeah.
I had trouble getting my belly and my hips to turn towards the wall when we were standing,
Okay.
And it just seemed to me that it didn't want to go and I needed to move my feet if I was going to get in that position.
There's definitely pressure against the feet to fully turn there. Did you try with your head and your eyes? Often when people find that turning hard in their body, they're leaving their head behind. And so if you get your head and your eyes turning, there'll be a little more.
Okay.
Yeah,
because I had trouble with, when I was sitting, I realized my head and my eyes didn't seem to know. You said go one way and then the other, and it didn't seem to me that one way seemed any better than the other.
So just as you're sitting there now, put your two arms straight out in front of you, just lightly touching each other, and turn your whole torso to one side. Okay? And see how far it can go to one side. And then go to the other side. So that's usually enough movement on the wall to be able to get you facing it enough to free the hand from behind.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll need to play with that.
Yeah, play with it. Yeah.
Thank you.
And let me know how the play goes. Yeah. Any other questions about the lesson, or did anybody notice some major differences in the threads between their ears and their shoulders? That you don't even realize how much you're walking around with tension, holding the shoulders up until you take out some of the tension and go, oh, that's what's possible in there. How about for those of you who are throwing the ball? Did that feel good to? I know I grew up not playing a lot of ball sports and not knowing how to throw a ball. It looks like Rich wants to say something. Let me unmute you, Rich. Rich, it's not letting me unmute you. You're going to have to go over to the computer and do it yourself. And I see some people yawning. It's a lot of focus for an hour to focus on a lesson like this. Sometimes people get really tired at the end of a lesson and need to take a short nap, and then it resets you into activity again. So don't be surprised if that happens after a lesson. Jerry.
The throwing was good. I play senior softball and haven't been able to practice or anything for several months, so that was good. Appreciate it.
Uh-huh. Yeah, so you can just kind of imagine you're in that game, and
Yeah.
and it feels good to throw. I could see you having fun with it as you were doing it with the hip snap. And the hip snap is just really what keeps that shoulder able to do it.
Thanks.
So this is something you could share with your softball team when we're back playing softball again, as a way to warm up for a game. It's just you can imagine the wall there, and it's a good warm up, so you're much less likely to hurt yourself in the game after you have that coordination warmed up.
Thank you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Ronald.
Yes, my wife keeps telling me to stand up. My posture, I tend to roll my shoulders down,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd like to work on something that helps me improve my posture.
Okay, I'm just making my request list. Today's lesson is actually a really good one for working on your posture, because when you stand against the wall and you're bringing your arm up and around, it's working on the mobility in these ribs here, which is part of what holds your head up. So this would be a fun one to play with. Like, take this weekend and every day, once or twice, spend a half an hour getting to know the wall, painting a wall, trying to make it easier and smoother, of seeing when can you turn your belly one way, turn your belly the other way. And it's a great one for posture. But we will continue playing with posture. Yeah. Posture isn't about willpower. And that's the thing, that when people see you hunched over, they think, if you would just stand up straight, you would be up straight. But posture is about the ability to adapt to different circumstances by having different movements in your ribs and a sense of support from your feet on the floor. And the more you can keep that mobility in your chest, the easier it is to stay upright. So, yeah. What we say is, if he could, he would. And so you got to work on the underneath ability to move the ribs to get into that position, and then it'll be easier to stay there. Yeah. Other comments, questions? Okay. I'm going to end the meeting. I'm going to stop the recording.